My name is William Turner, and I've lived in Salt Lake City, Utah for the past 38 years. I've always considered myself a fairly ordinary man, someone who blends in with the crowd. I'm married to a wonderful woman, Jessica, and we have 2 kids, Daniel, my 12-year-old son, and Sophia, my 8-year-old daughter. I work as a software engineer, a job I've found both fulfilling and, at times, monotonous. Life was simple, structured, and, I thought, predictable. But everything changed on that rainy afternoon in late autumn, when the world as I knew it came to an abrupt halt. I had just finished up a long day at the office, the sky darkening as the first rain of the season started to fall. I was driving home on Interstate 15, reflecting on the tasks I had completed and the ones still pending, when disaster struck. I don't remember much after the sharp screech of tires and the deafening crash. One moment, I was gripping the wheel, watching the rain streak against my windshield, and the next, everything went black. When I regained consciousness, I found myself standing in a place that felt wrong. It wasn't like any place I had ever been. There was no sky, no horizon, only an endless expanse of soft golden light. The air felt thick with peace, yet it carried an energy that I couldn't explain. My heart was racing, but I wasn't afraid. In fact, I felt calm, like a heavy burden had been lifted from my chest. I tried to speak, but no sound came from my lips. Instead, a voice echoed within me, as if someone were speaking directly into my mind. You are here because you were meant to be. A wave of recognition washed over me. I knew I was in the afterlife, though I had never imagined it to feel so serene. There was no sense of fear or judgment, just an overwhelming feeling of welcome. I began to walk, my footsteps silent on the soft, ethereal ground beneath me. As I ventured forward, I noticed figures moving in the distance. They were like shadows, human-shaped but translucent, their faces unreadable. And then, before I knew it, I was no longer alone. A figure stepped out of the mist, a woman, her presence luminous and warm. As she drew closer, I could see her clearly. She had dark, shoulder-length hair, and her eyes radiated kindness. The moment I looked into them, I knew exactly who she was. It was Princess Diana. I stood there, stunned. It felt like the entire world had stopped, and all that existed in that moment was her. Princess Diana, the Princess of Wales, the woman whose life had captivated the world for years, the one who had tragically passed in 1997. I had never expected to meet her, especially not here, in this strange, otherworldly place. She smiled softly at me, a serene expression on her face. There was no hint of the sadness or pain that had marked her life on Earth. Here, she was free, radiant, unburdened. "William," she said, her voice like music, gentle and powerful at the same time. "I have been waiting for you." "Waiting for me?" I managed to say, my voice trembling, though I had no idea how I was speaking. She nodded, as if the answer were obvious. "You are here because your journey has just begun. Your life on Earth is not over yet, but your soul has crossed over for a reason. You have questions. I have answers." I tried to gather my thoughts, still overwhelmed by the situation. "Why me? Why now?" Her gaze softened, and she took a step closer. "You've been living in the shadows of your own life, William. You've always done what was expected of you. Worked hard, been a good husband, a good father. But somewhere along the way, you lost yourself. You stopped asking the big questions, stopped looking for meaning beyond the mundane. You were content, but not fulfilled. Your soul yearned for more." Her words struck me deeply, more deeply than I had ever anticipated. It was as if she had peered straight into my very essence, laying bare the hidden corners of my soul. "But how did you know?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Princess Diana smiled, her eyes twinkling with understanding. "I know because I've been where you are. I too walked the earth, seeking purpose, seeking answers, and now I have found them. I am here to share what I've learned." She took my hand, and I felt a surge of energy pass between us. It wasn't a physical touch, but a profound connection that went beyond the material world. I could feel her wisdom, her experiences, all the pain and joy that she had endured in her life. Her life had not been easy, and yet she had transcended it all. In this place, she was no longer bound by the trials of her earthly existence. "William," she said, her voice steady and compassionate, "you are part of something much bigger than yourself. You are not here by accident. Your soul has a purpose, one that you have yet to fully understand." I felt a wave of warmth and love wash over me. It was a love that transcended any earthly love, an unconditional embrace that made my heart ache with longing. It was the kind of love that could heal wounds, erase doubts, and make everything seem possible. "You must go back," she said, breaking the silence. "Your time on earth is not yet done, but you have a choice now. You can continue living as you have, in the comfort of familiarity, or you can step into your true purpose. The choice is yours, William." I nodded, unable to speak for a moment. I was overwhelmed by everything I had seen and heard. The woman who had once been a princess, who had lived through so much turmoil and heartbreak, was now offering me something that felt more valuable than anything I had ever received. "Remember, William," she said, her voice softening, "you are never alone. You are always guided by love, and you always have the ability to choose love in return." And with that, she began to fade into the mist, her figure becoming one with the light around her. Her final words echoed in my mind as I was pulled back toward the world I knew. I woke up in the hospital room, the beeping of machines and the sterile smell of antiseptic filling my senses. I was alive, but I wasn't the same. I remembered everything: the light, the peace, Princess Diana's words. Her message had stayed with me, guiding me in ways I couldn't yet fully explain. Over the days that followed, I began to make changes. Small at first, spending more time with my family, seeking out deeper meaning in my work, and focusing on being present. But I knew I had a greater purpose, one I had yet to fully uncover. It wasn't just about living, it was about living with intention. The journey ahead would be difficult, but I knew I wasn't alone. The love, the wisdom, the connection that had been shared with me in that strange golden world was something I could carry with me for the rest of my life. Princess Diana's words were more than just a message. They were a calling, and I was ready to answer. After I woke up in the hospital, I was in a daze. The doctors and nurses were all amazed at how I had pulled through such a traumatic accident. They spoke about the miracle of my survival, but none of them knew what I had experienced. How could they? How could anyone understand what I had seen, what I had felt in that ethereal space? As the days passed, I was gradually able to return home to my family, though it felt like I was still walking in a haze. Everything around me seemed both familiar and distant at the same time. My house, my children, even Jessica, everything felt like it was in a soft focus, as though I were seeing the world through a veil. I tried to return to my routine, to dive back into work, but something inside me had shifted. The messages from that strange golden place lingered in my mind, and they wouldn't let me go. Diana's words echoed in my thoughts constantly. "You are part of something much bigger than yourself." I knew what I had to do, but the path forward wasn't clear. I couldn't just ignore what had happened to me, not after experiencing the vastness of life beyond this world. How could I go back to my old self? The William who had lived for the routine, for the expected, was no longer the same, but I didn't know how to move forward or even what moving forward meant. A week later, I decided I couldn't ignore it any longer. I took a day off work, a rare occurrence in my career-driven life, and went for a long walk in the foothills just outside Salt Lake City. The cool autumn air hit my face as I climbed, my mind swirling with thoughts. As I walked, I thought about my family. They were my foundation, the anchors that had kept me grounded. But I knew that I had to find something deeper than what I had been living. I needed to understand what I was meant to do now, why I had been given a second chance at life. I sat on a rock, my legs tired from the climb, and closed my eyes, allowing the wind to blow through my hair. I tried to clear my mind, to seek the peace I had found in that golden space. Suddenly a memory came to me. It was as if I was hearing Diana's voice once again, but this time it wasn't just in my head. You must choose love. Her words rang in my mind like a bell. I opened my eyes, staring out over the valley below. Love. It was such a simple concept, but in that moment, it felt like a profound revelation. I had spent so much of my life focused on achievement, on security, on the next step, always looking for validation from the world around me. But what Diana was telling me was that none of that mattered. What mattered was love. It was the energy that bound everything together, and it was the path to real fulfillment. I stayed there for hours, reflecting, allowing the meaning of her words to settle into my heart. By the time I walked back home, I felt a sense of clarity that had eluded me for years. When I returned to my family, something had changed within me. I could see Jessica, Daniel, and Sophia in a new light. The love I felt for them was deeper, richer, more vibrant than before. It was no longer just a feeling. It was a purpose. I wanted to be more present for them, to show them the kind of love that transcends the mundane, the love that is unconditional and ever-growing. I started taking small actions toward a life of purpose. At work, I became less focused on climbing the corporate ladder and more focused on helping others. I began mentoring younger engineers, offering guidance and encouragement without any expectation of reward. I began volunteering at local shelters, helping those in need, and giving time to causes that resonated with my newfound understanding of love and connection. But it wasn't just in the big gestures. It was in the small moments too, like sitting down with Daniel after school to talk about his day, or helping Sophia with her homework, taking time to listen to Jessica's thoughts about her day. It was in being fully present, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. I was no longer just going through the motions. I was living with intention. It wasn't long before the pull to do more grew stronger. One night, as I sat in bed with Jessica, my mind began to race. I had been thinking about the way Diana had spoken to me, about the message she had left me. She had told me I had a choice to make, that I could continue on my old path or step into my true purpose. But what was my true purpose? I knew the answer in my heart, though I had been too scared to admit it to myself. I wasn't meant to just live a quiet, comfortable life. I was meant to share what I had learned, to help others discover the same love and peace I had found. Diana had shown me a glimpse of a greater reality, and I couldn't keep it to myself. I decided to write. I began journaling my experiences, everything I had learned, everything I had felt, the lessons Diana had imparted to me. I wrote about the afterlife, about the golden space, and about the importance of love. Soon my writings turned into speeches. I found myself standing in front of small groups at local community centers, sharing my story of survival and transformation. The more I spoke, the more I realized how much people needed to hear these messages. There was so much pain, so much confusion in the world, and I could help. I could help them find peace, just as I had. I never forgot about Diana. Her words stayed with me, guiding me as I moved forward in my life. Over time, I even began to study her life more closely. I watched documentaries about her, read her biographies, and reflected on her legacy. The more I learned, the more I realized how deeply her life had been a reflection of her soul's journey. Her mission had been to heal, to spread love, even in the face of immense challenges. She had given so much to the world, and now she had given me something I could never repay: the clarity to live a life that truly mattered. I couldn't help but feel that, in some strange way, I was part of her mission now, spreading the message of love and connection to those who needed it most. Every time I spoke to someone, every time I reached out to help someone in need, I felt her presence beside me, guiding me. It wasn't just her spirit. It was the energy of love that transcended everything. That was her true gift to the world, love. And that was the gift I was meant to share.